You ever heard about the escape from Alcatraz? 3 prisoners who seemingly vanished without a trace after pulling off what should have been an impossible jailbreak. Well, today we're diving deep into the mysterious disappearance of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. We'll cover how they executed one of the most audacious prison breaks in U.S. history, why the authorities believe they died but can't prove it, and the lingering questions surrounding their fate. If you're new to our channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our latest episodes. Without further ado, let's dive into the chilling tale of Alcatraz ghost prisoners. The year was 1962, and Alcatraz Island was considered the most secure prison in the United States, known as the Rock. It housed some of the country's most notorious criminals, including Al Capone, built on a small, isolated island in San Francisco Bay. The prison had seemingly impenetrable security measures designed to keep its inmates from escaping. The waters surrounding Alcatraz were notoriously treacherous, with freezing temperatures and strong currents, making it nearly impossible to survive a swim to the mainland. Given these formidable challenges, it seemed like an escape from Alcatraz was nothing more than a fantasy. But for 3 inmates, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, this fantasy would soon become a terrifying reality. Frank Morris was a brilliant criminal mastermind, one of the smartest there, with an IQ of 133. While the Anglin brothers were skilled bank robbers with extensive criminal records, all 3 men shared a common goal. However, getting out of Alcatraz, no matter the costs. While at Alcatraz, Morris and the Anglins befriended each other and began plotting an escape. Their plan was audacious and intricate, involving digging a hole in the prison wall, using only spoons, and crafting a makeshift boat out of deodorants and raincoats to aid in their escape. The project required immense dedication and teamwork, and the men worked tirelessly in secret to bring their plan to fruition. In the early 1960s, Alcatraz was notorious for its harsh conditions. Prisoners lived in solitary confinement, cut off from the outside world and subjected to strict routines and constant surveillance. The prison staff believed that the isolation and confinement would break the inmates, forcing them to conform and abandon any thoughts of escape. However, Maurice and the Anglins saw these tough conditions as the motivation to push forward with their escape plan. They knew that if they didn't try and escape, they might spend the rest of their lives trapped in Alcatraz. As they planned their escape, they paid close attention to the routine of the prison guards, meticulously timing their movements and activities to ensure they wouldn't be caught. They also devised a system to fool the prison's head count procedures by creating realistic dummy heads out of soap and toilet paper to take their place in bed during their absence. As the weeks turned into months, the men worked diligently on their project, chipping away at the concrete walls behind their air vents and crafting their life jackets and raft from stolen raincoats. On June 11, 1962, after months of preparation, the men put their plan into action. They filed through the bars of their cells and made their way to the roof of the prison. From there, they climbed down to the shoreline below, avoiding the watchful eyes of the guards. As the sun rose the following morning, the prison staff began their daily head count, only to discover that the men were missing. The guards quickly realized what had happened and immediately sounded the alarm. A search was launched, but there was no sign of Maurice or the Anglin brothers. As the news of the escape spread, the FBI and the U.S. Coast Guard launched a massive manhunt, combing through the waters around Alcatraz and the surrounding area. Despite the efforts of law enforcement, there was no trace of the escaped prisoners. This led to speculation that the men had indeed made it off the island and were successfully on the run. However, others argued that the freezing water temperature and strong currents made it unlikely that anyone could have survived the journey. In the days and weeks following the escape, several purported sightings of the Anglin brothers surfaced, but none could be confirmed. The official investigation into the escape was eventually halted, leaving the mystery of their disappearance unsolved. Over the years, conspiracy theories have abounded regarding the escape. Some believe that the men were able to make it to a waiting boat and successfully fled to an unknown destination. Others believe that they perished in the waters around Alcatraz, their bodies lost to the unforgiving sea. Despite the passage of time, the case remains a source of fascination and debate, with many people still wondering whether Maurice and the Anglin brothers truly escaped from Alcatraz or if they met a more tragic end. There are some key pieces of evidence that point to the possibility that the men survived their daring escape attempt. First, no bodies were ever recovered, leaving open the possibility that they managed to make it to shore. Second, a letter purportedly written by one of the Anglin brothers surfaced in 2013, suggesting that they had in fact escaped and were living in hiding. Finally, photographs that allegedly show the Anglin brothers years after their escape have circulated, although the authenticity of these photos has never been confirmed. On the other hand, there are also several pieces of evidence that suggest the men likely drowned in the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. The water temperature at the time of their escape was around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the strong currents would have made it difficult for anyone to swim to safety. Additionally, none of the men had life jackets, and it's unlikely that they would have survived for long in such treacherous conditions. Furthermore, an official search was conducted by the U.S. Coast Guard and the FBI, and no evidence of the men or their raft was ever found. suggesting that they likely drowned during their escape attempt. In 2012, the FBI officially closed the case, stating that there was no credible evidence that the men had survived. However, many people remain convinced that Maurice and the Anglin brothers escaped from Alcatraz and lived out the remainder of their lives as free men. Whether they survived their daring escape attempt or perished in the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, the case of Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers remains a captivating mystery. Their story continues to fascinate people around the world, and their names are forever etched in the annals of prison escape lore. Now, before we wrap up, we want to hear your thoughts on the case. What do you think happened to Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers? Did they escape from Alcatraz or did they drown trying to do so? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends.